وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Yesterday in Fajr I was reading this Surah An-Nur. I started Surah An-Nur, and for the past 2-3 months I've started reading in a sequence. Started from the 13th juz. So far we have reached to the 18th, and inshallah hopefully we can go all the way to Wan Nas. And in the future, if I can continue, I'll continue the same way. I was reading the surah in Fajr, and this story came up in a very brief way when we were talking about the story of Aisha radiallahu anha, the mother of the believers, Al-Mu'mineen, the Prophet ﷺ's wife. So I thought that maybe I will go over these 10 verses that came to purify Aisha radiallahu anha in one of the best ways. As Allah says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. And Allah has purified His wives. And that's why to say His pure wives, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it's totally from the Quran. And because this is something that's very specific and special to Aisha radiallahu anha, therefore we'll just quickly go over. There are many narrations that talk about the story that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah An-Nur, from إِنَّ الَّذِينَ جَاءُوا بِالْإِفْكِ عُصْبَةٌ مِّنْكُمْ لَا تَحْسِبُوهُ شَرًّا لَكُمْ بَلْ هُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. So one of the narrations that is narrated by Urwa radiallahu anhu, who is one of the greatest students of Aisha radiallahu anha, she narrates it to him, and then we have received the hadith from different chains through Urwa radiallahu anhu. So according to Imam Bukhari, the story she narrates to Urwa radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he used to go in an expedition or a journey, he will draw straws, and whoever's name came out, he will take that wife with him. It was the Ghazwa Banu al-Mustalaq. It was in the 6th of Hijrah, according to some of the Syrians, where the Prophet ﷺ took Aisha radiallahu anha in his journey. After they were returning to Medina, Aisha radiallahu anha, she says that I was carried in a hodaj. It's like a small little camper that is independent, and they put it on the camel, and the camel carries it, and when the camel sits down, it's taken off, and the person comes out of it. So a person literally, it's like a small little home, like those pop-up campers where they put in the back of the truck or on top. So that was that time their campers. And at that time, she says, I was very young and I was very light. So whether I was in or not, the people would carry and put it back or take it off of the camel. They wouldn't make a difference or notice of whether I am there or not. So it happened so that one day, as they were nearing to Medina, she went to use the bathroom away from the visibility of the people. She went, and on her way back, she got late. The caravan just started to move. There was a Sahabi, Safwan ibn Mu'attal radiallahu anhu, who used to walk behind the caravan a couple miles back. Sometimes even he would be at a distance of a day. So if the caravan left in the day, he will reach there in the night. So he was on his way. Aisha radiallahu anha comes back and the caravan has left. She remembers that, I also lost my necklace. So she runs back and she's finding it. And during that time, it takes up a big amount of time. She's not even able to now go and catch up with the caravan. She sits there and waits, hoping that someone may come along and take her back to the rest of the people. So it happens so that she's tired and it's daytime, and she lays down and falls asleep. Safwan radiallahu anhu, when he reaches over there, he sees someone laying down and he doesn't know who is it. He goes and he sees Aisha radiallahu anha. She's kind of uncovered and recognizes her because she was very young at that time. He also knew her. recognized who she was, al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiallahu anha, he just said these words, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. He said in a loud voice, as a shock of what he is seeing, that the mother of the believer, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, she's left alone with no one laying down, and she's kind of uncovered as well. So at this voice, she wakes up and she suddenly sees that Safwan is there, and she covers up, and Safwan brings his camel and makes it sit right next to the tree. She gets in, and he takes her to the caravan. At that time, they have already reached Medina. They have already gotten. She goes home, and she doesn't know what's going on. She's narrating the story that she says that I didn't know what. Many days passed. As soon as she got to Medina, she got sick. So all those days she was in bed. She was very sick. She couldn't do anything. So she couldn't go out. She didn't know what was going on outside. What was going on outside is that the rumor started that, Aisha was left behind, and she had an affair with this person, Safwan, who found her. And that's why they took a long time, almost a day, to come to Medina. And this rumor just went like a wild spread, and all over people are talking. It happened so that a number of true believers, Muslim Sahabi and Sahabiyat, they also kind of fell for this rumor, and they thought that maybe it's true. And then it happened so that according to some other riwayat, there were 3 names that were mentioned that they actually propagated it, and they talked about it to people, and they were discussing it to other people. So they're kind of expanding that same rumor. At this whole time, all these days, as she was sick and nothing was revealed to her, one day when she got better, she asked the mother of Mistah, Mistah radiallahu anhuma. She went with her to use the bathroom outside, at the outskirts of Medina. And as she was coming back, she was wearing a long garment, and she tripped in her garment and fell, Mistah. And then as soon as she fell, she kind of cursed her son, Mistah. Ta'isa, Mistah. It's a word that is used that for like making dua against someone. So she was surprised that why is someone going to curse her own son? And then she asked her that, why did you say that? Why you say such to your own son? And she says, don't you know what he did? And she says, no, I don't know. So you don't know anything what's going on? All over the place, all over the city, everybody's talking about this. And she says, no, I don't know anything. During those days, she recalls that the Prophet ﷺ would not communicate or be the same as he was before this journey. The way, the kindness and the politeness that he had in his tone, it was something different in the way how he had a conversation. And then she told the whole story that this is what's going on. At this point, she realizes, there's something huge that has happened, and I'm not aware of it. She goes home. The Prophet ﷺ comes back again. She notices that he's kind of being very, straight-faced, not, engaging that much. And then she says, at this point, she is just 14 or 15-year-old. She's a teenager. She says to the Prophet ﷺ, I want to go and see my parents. The Prophet ﷺ says, by all means, you can go. And she goes to her mother and talks to her mother first. And she says that, do you know what's going on? What people are talking about me? And the mother says, you don't have to worry. People are talking, and everything will be okay. And she gives solace to her daughter, and she gives her comfort. Abu Bakr comes and she says the same thing to him, and he also kind of says, whatever it is, it is. The Prophet ﷺ, however, during this whole time, he was just quiet. He was just observing what's going on. He was very hurt from inside, but there is nothing there to clarify what has been said, the accusation. There's nothing there to clarify it or to fight it. So one day the Prophet ﷺ called someone that is very close to him, part of his household, knows the ins and outs of his house and his family members, was Ali radiallahu anhu and Usama radiallahu, Zayd radiallahu anhu. They both come in and he asks both. Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu says that, we don't know anything but good about Aisha, and she is, he talks very good about her and highly about her. And Ali radiallahu anhu, he kind of says, I don't know except good about her, but Allah has given you so many other choices. If you are disheartened or you feel bad or if you kind of feel something against her, you have many other choices. But he gives an advice. He says, why don't you ask her servant Barira radiallahu anha, who was a servant of Aisha radiallahu anha, used to help her in the household, for one of the households. The Prophet ﷺ calls Barira and asks her, what do you say about Aisha? And she says, I've never seen anything but good about her. She is very naive and playful in her early age. She's a teenager. Sometimes she makes the dough and then forgets about it and goes to sleep, and the goat comes and eats it up. So something very simple like that. So she is very simple, very naive. She's not an adult. So that's what she says. The Prophet ﷺ goes to the minbar. Now this is the first time he's going to speak out against what's happening. He says that in the summary of what he says, he gives a khutbah. He starts with the shahadatain and praise of Allah, and he says that I have been hurt, and would someone apologize on behalf of those who have accused my wife Aisha radiallahu anha. The chief of there's two tribes of Medina, Aus and Khazraj. Sa'd ibn Ubadah is the chief of Khazraj tribe. Sa'd ibn Mu'adh is the chief of the Aus tribe. One of them stands up and says, if this person is part of my tribe, I will make sure that he gets the punishment, and if I find him, I will kill him. The other chief stands up and he says, no, you're lying. You won't do that. You will protect your own people. And they both start to fight, and there's a big commotion in the mosque. The Prophet ﷺ calms everybody down, calm down, everybody quiet, and then the Prophet ﷺ dismisses the meeting. All these things happen, and the Prophet ﷺ then, now for the first time, he goes and confronts Aisha radiallahu anha to bring up this issue. He goes to Aisha and says, he praises Allah, he says the shahadatain, and he says that I've heard such and such things about you, but if you are true and you have not done anything wrong, Allah will bring justice to you, and Allah will make sure that you are pure from all of the accusations. But if you have done a mistake, so the Prophet ﷺ is very precise. He's a prophet, and he has to give the rulings because there's no evidence right here at this point that she has not done anything. So he says that, and if you have done a mistake, and then know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most forgiving, and you can repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she looks at her mother and says, answer to the Prophet. At this point she says that I used to be crying the whole month. This whole thing happened over a whole month. She was crying the whole time. She says that in the night or the day, every time I just couldn't stop crying of what's been going on with me. At that point, when I heard the Prophet ﷺ giving me these two choices and asking me, so at that point I just became blank, and I stopped crying. I couldn't even cry anymore. I was like, had enough. And I said to my mother, answer to the Prophet. What is he saying? So the mother says, how can I answer to the Prophet? I don't know what to say. And then Aisha says to her father, why don't you answer the Prophet? He said, what can I answer? I have nothing here to say. And then she says this very interesting quote that is worth reading it. It's a very remarkable way that how intelligent she is. I will just read it out in Arabic and translate it. She says, Wallahi, لقد عرفت لقد سمعتم هذا الحديث حتى استقر في أنفسكم وصدقتم به. He said, by Allah, I know that you have heard such and such things about me until you have confirmed it and you have acknowledged that as a true thing. And if I say, وَلَئِن قُلْتُ لَكُمْ إِنِّي بَرِيئَةٌ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ أَنِّي بَرِيئَةٌ لَا تُصَدِّقُونِي. But if I say to you that I am free from all of these accusations, and I know that I am free from all these accusations, and Allah knows that I am free from these accusations, you will not believe me. وَلَئِنِ اعْتَرَفْتُ لَكُمْ بِأَمْرٍ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ أَنِّي مِنْهُ بَرِيئَةٌ لَا تُصَدِّقُونِي. But if I acknowledge and I confess, and Allah knows that I am free from it, then you will believe me. So what I will do, وَاللَّهِ لَا أَجِدُ لِي وَلَكُمْ مَثَلًا إِلَّا كَمَا قَالَ أَبُو يُوسُفَ فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. He says that I don't have anything but to say what Abu Yusuf, the father of Yusuf alayhi salam, Yaqub alayhi salam said, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ, beautiful patience. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. And Allah is going to help me, whatever you say about me. So that was, she quoted. And she says at that point, I was so young that I also didn't know much of the Quran as well. But she quotes from the Quran this particular verse, that Allah is going to be my assistant. So after this, she goes to her room, lays down, and she's just quiet. The whole time, she says that for this whole month, I was kind of waiting out to see that maybe the Prophet ﷺ will see a dream, something like that. She says that I never expected that the wahi will come to give me bara'ah. She says I was laying down and a minute or two passes and the Prophet ﷺ, the revelation signs start, that he starts to sweat and he becomes very heavy, body becomes like so heavy. Many of the signs that the scholars mentioned, those signs started and wahi came, and once the wahi ended, the Prophet ﷺ, the first thing that he said, لِتَهْنِئَكَ يَا عَائِشَةَ, glad tidings to you, O Aisha. And there was a glad tidings to Aisha radiallahu anha. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and her mother, they're looking at Aisha. Wow, Allah has purified you and Allah has brought justice to you. Stand up to the Prophet and thank him. And look what she says. I'm not going to thank anyone. I'm going to thank Allah. He is the one who brought bara'ah to me. And he's the one who purified me. I'm not going to stand up for the Prophet. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that was very interesting. So she says that I didn't know that Allah is going to reveal 10 verses. 10 verses. Allah has never done that for anybody else. That 10 verses were revealed. In general, there's the bara of the people, the 3 people that were left behind. There are 2 verses that is mentioned. But this is a very interesting one, that 10 verses came down. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the past, for Maryam alayhi salam, a child said, right? Gave bara'ah. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave, and not just 10 any verses, this is Quran that is going to be read until the day of judgment. Every time people are reading the same verses, 10 verses every time. Some of the scholars have mentioned the 8 special things about Aisha radiallahu anha. Number 1 is that the assistance for their marriage, for Aisha radiallahu anha and to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their marriage came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through a true vision. And the visions of the prophets are like wahi, that he saw Jibreel alayhi salam come down, as I mentioned, in a cloth of silk, and the Aisha radiallahu anha was shown in that cloth that this is your wife. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala arranged this marriage from the heavens. So that's number one. Number two, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam only married Aisha radiallahu anha as a virgin. All of them had previous marriages. The third, the Prophet ﷺ died in her lap. And fourth, that is with the third one, is that the last thing that the Prophet ﷺ had in his mouth was the saliva of Aisha radiallahu anha, because she chewed the miswak and then gave it to the Prophet ﷺ. Number five, the Prophet ﷺ died in her home, and then he was buried there. Number six, only Aisha radiallahu anha is the only wife that when they were sleeping together in one quilt, wahi descended to the Prophet ﷺ in that state. And no other wives of the Prophet ﷺ had that privilege. Number seven, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a bara'ah for Aisha radiallahu anha from the heavens, as we just talked about the story. The eighth is that her and father and her mother, they're all from the Muhajirun, and there are as-Siddiq. Siddiq is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and she is Siddiqah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised them rizqun kareem. Lahum maghfiratun wa rizqun kareem. It comes after the verses that are read in the Salah, a little bit after that, that they suspend. Mistah was Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's distant cousin. Her grandfather is the uncle of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And that's how Mistah, they are both distant cousins, Mistah and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And they were a poor family. They came from a poor family. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was very generous, and he used to spend on this family. After he heard this accusation from a near people of his own, accusing his own daughter, he said, I'm not going to spend any more on this family. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also revealed, وَلَا يَأْتَلِي بِالْفَضْلِ مِنْكُمْ وَالسَّعَةَ يُؤْتُوا وَلِلْقُرْبَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْمُهَاجِرِينَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. They should even give to the poor people. وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا. They should forgive and pardon. Don't you want that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives you? أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ رَحِيمٌ. The Abu Bakr, when he heard this verse, he said, Bala, wallahi, I want Allah to forgive me. And he started spending on this family again. So that's how the lessons that we can learn is that even if someone hurt you, if they said sorry, move on and be the same person as you were before. Many lessons that we can learn from this beautiful story. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward Aisha radiallahu anha and her entire family. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.
Why?